Fear of poverty, peniophobia, the silent anxiety that shapes our lives. Hey there, welcome to today's video. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss our explorations of the human psyche and the fears that drive us. Today, we're diving deep into a fear that affects millions of Americans, often silently shaping their decisions, relationships, and even their identity. Let's talk about peniophobia, the fear of poverty, the shadow of financial insecurity. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night, heart racing, palms sweaty. But you're not afraid of a monster under your bed or a strange noise outside your window. Instead, you're gripped by visions of empty bank accounts, mounting bills, and the terrifying prospect of not knowing how you'll make ends meet. This is the reality for Sarah, a 34-year-old marketing executive from Chicago who, despite earning a comfortable six-figure salary, lives in constant fear of financial ruin. I check my bank accounts multiple times a day, Sarah confesses. I've turned down vacations with friends, avoided dating, and even put off medical procedures because deep down, I'm terrified that I'm just one mistake away from losing everything. Sarah isn't alone. According to recent studies, financial anxiety affects approximately 72% of Americans, with about 25% experiencing severe symptoms that align with peniophobia. But what exactly is this fear? And why does it have such a powerful hold on so many of us? What is peniophobia? Peniophobia, derived from the Greek word penia, meaning poverty, and phobos, meaning fear, is the persistent, irrational fear of poverty or financial ruin. Unlike general financial concerns that can be healthy motivators, peniophobia is characterized by obsessive thoughts about money, extreme anxiety when spending, even on necessities, hoarding behaviors, and inability to enjoy wealth, physical symptoms like panic attacks when confronting financial decisions, avoidance of financial discussions or planning, persistent belief in imminent financial doom despite evidence to the contrary. For Mike, a 42-year-old teacher from Boston, this fear manifests as an inability to celebrate his achievements. I got tenure last year, which essentially guarantees my job security, he explains. But instead of feeling relief, I immediately started worrying about pension cuts, inflation, or some unforeseen disaster that could still leave me destitute. The origins of poverty fear. To understand peniophobia, we need to examine its roots, which typically fall into several categories. 1. Childhood experiences. Jessica grew up in a small apartment in Detroit where her single mother worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. I remember the electricity being shut off several times, she recalls, the shame of wearing the same clothes to school for a week straight, the hunger pangs when we had to stretch our food budget. These early experiences created neural pathways in Jessica's brain that associated financial instability with physical danger. Even now, as a successful attorney, her body responds to minor financial setbacks as if they were life-threatening emergencies. 2. Cultural and generational trauma. For many Americans, fear of poverty is embedded in their cultural heritage. Descendants of those who lived through the Great Depression often inherit cautionary tales and financial behaviors that reflect extreme scarcity mindsets. Tom's grandparents survived the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma before relocating to California. My grandfather kept every piece of string, every paper bag, until the day he died, Tom shares. He passed that mentality to my father, who passed it to me. I have a retirement account, investments, and a paid-off house, but I still feel guilty buying brand-name cereal. 3. Economic volatility and systemic factors. The 2008 financial crisis, the pandemic economic downturn, and the increasing visibility of homelessness in American cities have created legitimate reasons for financial anxiety. When combined with decreasing social safety nets and rising costs of healthcare, education, and housing, even rational concerns can evolve into phobic responses. I watched my neighbor lose everything in 2008, says Rachel from Phoenix. He had a good job, a beautiful home, and within 6 months, he was living in his car. That could happen to anyone. It could happen to me. Fourth, media and social comparison. In our hyper-connected world, we're constantly bombarded with images of both extreme wealth and devastating poverty. Social media platforms showcase luxury lifestyles, while news outlets report on economic hardship, creating a perfect storm for financial anxiety. I scroll through Instagram and see people my age traveling the world, buying homes, starting businesses, admits 29-year-old Alex from Seattle. Then I check my newsfeed and read about millennials drowning in debt. The contrast makes me feel like I'm either failing or about to fail. The hidden cost of poverty. Fear. Peniophobia exacts a tremendous toll that extends far beyond financial decisions. Mental health impacts. Chronic financial anxiety is linked to depression, generalized anxiety disorder, sleep disturbances, and even post-traumatic stress disorder. The constant state of high alert depletes mental resources that could otherwise be used for creativity, problem-solving, and relationship building. Physical health consequences. Dr. Melissa Chen, a psychoneuroimmunologist at UCLA, explains, when the fear of poverty keeps someone in a perpetual stress response, we see elevated cortisol levels, inflammation, compromised immune function, and increased risk for cardiovascular disease. Ironically, these health issues often lead to significant medical expenses, creating a vicious cycle. Relationship strain. My fear of poverty has been the biggest source of conflict in my marriage, admits Robert from Dallas. My wife wants to enjoy the fruits of our labor, take vacations, renovate our home, while I'm constantly pushing to save more, invest more, prepare for catastrophes that might never happen. She feels deprived, and I feel misunderstood. Career limitations. Paradoxically, the fear of poverty can actually limit earning potential. Lisa, a talented graphic designer, turned down a promising startup opportunity because it lacked the security of her corporate job. That company went public last year, she says with regret. My former colleague who took the position I declined is now financially independent. My fear kept me safe, but stagnant. The scarcity trap. Perhaps most insidiously, peniophobia can create a self-fulfilling prophecy through what behavioral economists call the scarcity mindset. When we're hyper-focused on what we lack, our cognitive bandwidth narrows, leading to poorer decision-making and short-term thinking that can actually worsen financial outcomes. Breaking free. Strategies to overcome peniophobia. The good news is that, like other phobias, the fear of poverty can be addressed and overcome. Here are effective approaches that have helped many Americans reclaim their financial and emotional well-being. 1. Recognize the difference between prudence and phobia. Financial responsibility is healthy and necessary. The problem arises when legitimate caution transforms into paralyzing fear. David, a financial therapist from New York, suggests this test. Ask yourself if your financial behaviors are enhancing or diminishing your quality of life. Are they based on realistic assessments or catastrophic thinking? Do they align with your values or contradict them? Second challenge, cognitive distortions. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Techniques can be particularly effective for addressing the thought patterns underlying peniophobia. Common distortions include catastrophizing. If I lose my job, I'll become homeless. All or nothing thinking. Either I save every penny, or I'll end up destitute. Fortune telling. The economy is definitely going to crash, and I'll lose everything. Emotional reasoning. I feel financially insecure. Therefore, I am financially insecure. By identifying these patterns and systematically challenging them with evidence, you can begin to loosen their grip on your emotions and behaviors. 3. Create financial clarity. Often, peniophobia thrives in the fog of financial uncertainty. Taking concrete steps to understand your financial situation can transform vague fears into manageable realities. James, a recovering peniaphobic from Minneapolis, shares, "I avoided looking at my finances for years because I was terrified of what I might find. When I finally sat down with a financial advisor and created a comprehensive overview of my situation, I discovered I was actually in much better shape than I thought. The relief was immediate and profound. Steps to create clarity include tracking expenses for 30 days without judgment, creating a realistic budget based on actual spending patterns, calculating your net worth, assets minus liabilities, developing specific financial goals with timelines, building an emergency fund to create a psychological safety net." 4. Practice gradual exposure. Just as someone with arachnophobia might start by looking at pictures of spiders before eventually holding one, those with peniaphobia can benefit from gradual exposure to financial risks. For Samantha from Austin, this meant setting aside a small splurge fund of $50 per month that she had to spend on non-necessities. "At first, spending that money gave me panic attacks," she admits. "But over time, I learned that treating myself occasionally didn't lead to financial ruin. Now I can buy a nice dinner or a new book without spiraling into anxiety." 5. Develop a sufficiency mindset. Lynn Twist, author of The Soul of Money, advocates shifting from a scarcity mindset to what she calls sufficiency thinking, the recognition that while resources may be finite, they can be enough. "I started asking myself a different question," explains Marcus from Philadelphia. "Instead of, 'What if I don't have enough?' I began asking, 'What is enough for me?' That simple shift helped me define what financial security actually meant in my life, rather than chasing an ever-moving target." 6. Connect with community. Isolation intensifies fear, while community provides perspective and support. Financial vulnerability circles, where people honestly discuss money fears and challenges, have emerged across the country as powerful antidotes to financial shame and anxiety. Hearing others talk openly about their financial struggles and triumphs made me realize I wasn't alone, says Elena from Miami. It also helped me see that worth isn't determined by net worth. Some of the most impressive, generous people in my circle have modest financial profiles, while some of the wealthiest are still driven by insatiable fear. 7. Seek professional support. For severe cases of peniaphobia, professional help may be necessary. This could include financial therapists who specialize in the emotional aspects of money, traditional therapists with experience in anxiety disorders and phobias, financial advisors who can provide objective analysis and planning, support groups focused on financial anxiety or compulsive saving, real-life transformation. Kevin's story. To bring these strategies to life, let's look at Kevin's journey from debilitating peniaphobia to financial peace. Kevin grew up in rural West Virginia, where his family struggled after the coal mine that employed most of the town shut down. "I watched my parents lose everything when I was 12, he recalls. "We lived in our car for 3 months before moving in with relatives. That experience imprinted on me in ways I didn't fully understand until decades later." Despite building a successful construction business in Charlotte, Kevin couldn't escape the shadow of potential poverty. He worked 7 days a week, rarely took vacations, and stashed money in multiple accounts that he never touched. His marriage ended partly because of his inability to enjoy the wealth he had created, and his health suffered from chronic stress. "The turning point came when my doctor told me I was heading for a heart attack if something didn't change," Kevin says. "I realized my fear of poverty was actually robbing me of the very security and happiness I was trying to create." Kevin's recovery journey included 1. Working with a financial therapist to understand the emotional roots of his fear. 2. Creating a clear financial plan with the help of a certified financial planner. 3. Establishing firm boundaries between work and personal time. 4th, practicing joy spending by using a small percentage of his income for experiences that brought him happiness. 5. Volunteering at a homeless shelter, which paradoxically reduced his fear by connecting him with people who had faced his worst fears and survived. 6. Developing non-financial sources of security and identity through community involvement and creative hobbies. 5 years later, Kevin describes himself as financially mindful, but not financially fearful. He still runs his business successfully, but has scaled back to reasonable hours. He's remarried and regularly enjoys vacations and leisure activities without overwhelming anxiety. The irony is that I'm actually wealthier now than when I was consumed by fear, Kevin reflects. When I stopped making decisions from a place of panic, my business creativity flourished, and I developed services that were more profitable and less labor-intensive. But more importantly, I can finally enjoy the security I worked so hard to create. Conclusion: from fear to freedom. Paniophobia may be common in our society, but it doesn't have to control your life. By understanding its origins, recognizing its impact, and implementing strategic changes, you can transform your relationship with money from one dominated by fear to one characterized by clarity, sufficiency, and even joy. Remember that financial security isn't just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about creating a life where money serves as a tool for well-being, rather than a source of constant anxiety. True wealth includes peace of mind, meaningful relationships, and the ability to enjoy the present while planning wisely for the future. If you're struggling with the fear of poverty, be gentle with yourself. This fear often comes from real experiences and legitimate concerns. The path to healing begins with acknowledgement and compassion, followed by consistent steps toward a more balanced perspective. Thank you so much for watching this exploration of paniophobia. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit. Don't forget to subscribe for more content on understanding and overcoming the fears that shape our lives. Until next time, remember that while fear can be instructive, it doesn't deserve to be in the driver's seat of your life.